Sulley was the best. Not almost the best. The best. Top of the leaderboard. Name on the wall. Everyone in the building knew it. He had every single thing Monsters, Inc. said a monster was supposed to have, and he bought into it completely. But here's the thing. He trusted the system so much that when the whole thing turned out to be wrong, he didn't know who he was without it. But let's reframe this. James P. Sullivan didn't choose his size, didn't choose the fur, the roar, or the genetics that made heavy steel doors fly open. He was just born into the game. His dad was a legend on the scare floor, meaning the Sullivan name carried weight long before he ever earned a single point himself. The fit looks so damn perfect on paper that nobody ever thinks to stop and ask. So Sulley grew up knowing his purpose the way a hammer knows it's built for nails. And that total lack of doubt felt exactly like confidence, even when it wasn't. Now watch what he does with that setup. He trains, he competes. See that massive board in the lobby with his name slapped right at the top? He checks it constantly. That digital number is the only valid language he has to tell himself, yeah, I'm enough. He's the undisputed king of the company. He's got a best friend who'd take a bullet for him, a corner office, and a whole fan club screaming his name, but he's just performing. Every single day, no questions asked. The roar, the claws, the grand entrance, it's all a rehearsed routine for an audience that wrote his lines before he even knew he was stepping onto a stage. And honestly, the scariest part is that he's genuinely brilliant at it. He's so good that you don't even notice the role was never his choice to begin with. The real tragedy isn't failing the system. It's mastering it so completely that you never get to find out what you'd actually want if the crowd finally went home and nobody was watching. But that's not what's actually going on here. Look at how Sulley operates before Boo ever enters the frame. He doesn't clock in because he loves terrorizing toddlers, and he doesn't hunt down that top spot with some ravenous, desperate hunger. He just maintains. He shows up, plays the part, and delivers exactly what the board expects. There's no raw joy when he hits the top of the leaderboard. There's just relief. The massive gap between what he has and what he actually feels has been completely smoothed over by the rigid routine of the gig. Just look at his Employee of the Month photo. That smile is the right size. Not genuine, just correct. It's the face of someone who spent a lifetime practicing looking how a winner looks. You've made that face. You know exactly what it costs to keep it up. Boo doesn't give Sulley a heart. She gives him a total system failure. For the very first time, something is pulling him in a direction that has absolutely zero to do with what corporate requires. And that's what makes it so terrifying. Not because he loves her, but because loving her means going off script. And once you step outside that pre-written script, you realize you have no damn idea who James P. Sullivan actually is. The lazy read here is a standard redemption arc, but Sulley doesn't need to fix his morals. He needs an identity that actually belongs to him. Let's pause here. When you first watched this, you probably looked at Sulley and thought, man, that's inspiring. You admired the dedication and the insane consistency. And look, if a part of you is pulling the exact same stunt in your own life right now, grinding twice as hard as everyone else just to prove you even belong in the room, you might want to hit subscribe, because in just a few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what happens when you finally hit that magic number you've been chasing. Trust me, you need to hear this before you get there. You see, Sulley wasn't living up to expectations. He was hiding inside them. Look at what happens when Randall starts creeping up on the leaderboard. The whole company is buzzing, but if you look closely at Sulley's face, you won't see a competitive fire. You see straight up panic. It's not a healthy I want to win vibe. It's a I can't afford to lose. So when Boo accidentally breaks into his world, his default mode isn't empathy, it's damage control. Lock her up, fix the glitch, put the world back together. He goes on autopilot because that's the only setting he's got. Watch him carry her through the scare floor, trying to look casual, his body just managing a crisis instead of connecting with a kid. The moment he roars at Boo to punch up their numbers, that's easily the most honest scene in the entire movie. He does it. He performs right on cue. But when he catches her face, it's not guilt that hits him, it's realization. He finally sees what he's been doing for years. That roar wasn't monstrous at all. It was just compliance with a costume on. But then Boo stops running. She laughs. And see his reaction. He laughs right back, completely raw. Before he can even process whether it's professional or appropriate, That split-second reflex is the only unmanaged thing he does in the whole film. Nobody ordered it. No spreadsheet tracks it. For 2 seconds, the corporate icon vanishes and a real person steps out. Fast forward to the end. Sulley stands outside her rebuilt door, hesitating. That pause isn't just sadness, it's the first time in his life he's about to do something simply because it matters to him. No metrics, no rankings, nobody watching with a clipboard, just, this is real, and I'm going in. Sulley's whole journey isn't about a scary monster learning to be sweet. It's about a guy built entirely for someone else's blueprint who finally stops and asks, wait, whose house am I building? The movie did to you exactly what Monsters, Inc. does to Sulley. You walked in, sat down, and immediately bought into the premise. Monsters need screams to keep the lights on. Sulley's the undisputed king of tracking them down, and that massive leaderboard is the ultimate truth. You tracked those numbers right alongside him. Who's winning? Who's catching up? Who's dominating the floor? You were fully locked inside the system before the film ever gave you a single reason to question it. And then, Boo laughed. That single laugh introduced a value the system had absolutely no category for. Screams were quantifiable. Laughter broke the ledger. And here's the thing the film did that's almost cruel in its precision. It made you root for terror for 40 minutes, then showed you a child giggling. And suddenly, the old metrics felt like a straight-up crime. Pixar didn't spell it out for you. They made you feel it in your gut. 1 second, you're trapped inside the machine, rooting for the numbers, and the next, you're completely on the outside, looking back in horror. And here's the kicker. You didn't even notice the exact moment you crossed the line. The movie turned you into Sulley's mirror. You were rooting for the number because you deeply understand the number. You know exactly what it feels like to have your entire worth attached to something you can measure on a chart. You didn't question it when the movie showed it to you because you've never fully questioned it in your own life either. And this is the exact moment it stops being about a fictional monster. It's about you. You know this system inside out. You didn't build it. It was waiting for you the second you showed up. School slapped grades on your forehead. Work handed you performance reviews, and suddenly every single room you walked into had an invisible leaderboard running in the background. You could literally feel it in the air. So you start managing your brand. You rehearse casual lines in your head before speaking, not to connect, but to engineer exactly how you land. When someone compliments you on a project that cost you everything, you don't feel happy. You feel suspicious, like they just missed the seams. But you know exactly where the fabric is fraying. The metric goes up, the bosses smile, and you already know the prize for winning. You get to maintain it. But somewhere underneath all that noise, if you actually sit still in a quiet room long enough, a question starts to leak out. It's not, am I enough? You've learned to out-earn and outperform that one a long time ago. The question is way quieter. Is this actually me? Or is this just the version of me I learned to build? We like to think that living up to expectations is this noble climb. But this movie shows you the ugly truth. It's not a climb at all. It's a total replacement. You systematically swap out the messy, unpolished version of yourself, the one that's still figuring out what it actually wants, and replace it with a sleek copy designed to fit inside a frame someone else built for you. Sulley doesn't fail the system. He masters it. And mastering it is exactly what hollows him out from the inside. You see, the problem is that every single achievement on his record was always written in the strict language of Monsters, Inc., never in his own. That's why the moment Boo laughs, and he laughs right back, that's not a moral lesson. That's a leak. That's something raw and unmanaged, breaking through a heavy crack in the performance. Because identity isn't the thing you're highly paid to be great at. It's what slips through the seams when the show finally stops. Sulley didn't just discover he was more than a professional scarer. He discovered there was a him underneath the costume at all. I remember finally getting the exact thing I'd been grinding toward for 2 straight years. Someone I deeply respected looked me in the eye and said the exact words I'd been dying to hear. And my immediate reaction, before any happiness or relief could even kick in, this cold, heavy stillness washed over me. My shoulders didn't drop. My chest didn't open up. I just stood there frozen. and I was already scanning for the next milestone. Someone asked me, "So how's it feel?" I just shrugged and said, "Good," and we both moved on. But it took me years to look back at that moment and face the real horror of what actually happened. I hadn't been chasing a goal I wanted. I'd been desperately chasing proof that I was even allowed to want things at all. The expectations weren't the real problem. Living inside them until you completely forgot there was a world outside, that was the problem. Sulley wasn't some cold machine that suddenly found a heart. He was a real person who'd just never been given an identity without a corporate job description stapled to it, and that whole performance? It wasn't a warning sign. It was proof that something real was still locked inside, just waiting for a crack. Right now, you've got the exact same choice to make. You can keep showing up inside the frame they built for you and keep calling that exhaustion ambition. Or you can finally let something messy, unpolished, and real break through before you perfect it into absolutely nothing. If this is the kind of cinematic therapy you've been looking for, hit subscribe and click the video right on your screen, because stepping outside that frame isn't about being brave. It's just living proof that you finally remember one simple truth. You were never just the number.